Hello and welcome to Macanori, and I'm reading to you from Volume 1 of my Ellie Lawrence supernatural crime thriller series, and this is The Headhunter. And you saw last week Ellie met Loki, who becomes a big part of the novel, and the chapter this week is all about the next stage that she takes to venture back out into the world. So she takes Sean's advice and it's time to run with the pack again. So this is chapter 9. Ellie sat in her car, one hand on Loki's head, massaging his ear. He whimpered as they both stared through the windscreen. I know, but they're friends. They won't hurt you. She looked into his soulful eyes, his eyebrows bunched together. I won't let anything happen to you, okay? Loki grumbled and hunkered down in the passenger seat. Wish I could communicate with him as I can with the pack, Ellie thought, as she stroked his black and cream back, burying her fingers in his thick fur. You never know. It might be your lucky night. Loki raised his head, his right ear perking up as he looked at her. They might not allow dogs to run with us. I've never seen any, but then I haven't been here in so long. Ellie sighed and looked at the parked cars and the people gathering, their excited chatter a low hum in the gathering night. Come on, Lokes, let's introduce you to some old friends. Ellie opened the car door and climbed out, Loki following, his head down. Hey, Janie, Ellie called as she approached the redhead she'd met when she was barely an adult. Janie turned and stared, her amber gaze moving from Ellie to Loki and back before her lips spread into a wide grin. Ellie, it's so great to see you. Sean said you might come, but, well, it's been so long. Janie let the sentence hang as she threw her arms around Ellie and hugged her tight. Ellie inhaled the musky scent, so strange yet so familiar. It's me, and I made it at last. Ellie pulled away and smiled at Janie, a whine drawing her gaze to Loki, who sat expectantly at her feet. Apologies, Loki. Janie, may I introduce you to Loki? Loki, this is Janie. Janie dropped to her haunches and stared Loki in the eyes. Ellie tensed, knowing how threatening such a stance could be. But Loki, in true Loki style, took it in his stride. He cocked his head to one side as he observed Janie before raising his paw, something Ellie adored him to do. Well, it is an honour to meet you, Loki, Janie said and shook his paw. So, how have you been, honey? She asked, standing up and facing Ellie. Ellie took a deep breath, allowing the air to hiss out from between her teeth. Long story, but I'll be okay. Janie studied her for a few minutes, then nodded. You've been running, though, which is good. Yes, but how do you know? Janie laughed and rolled her eyes. Because if you hadn't, you wouldn't be standing here. Sean's kind of told us, me and Neil, what you've been through. So if you hadn't been running, you'd be on the most wanted list by now, I can assure you. Ellie pursed her lips and looked down, kicking at the ground with the toe of her boot. Loki pressed himself against her leg and she rested a hand on his soft head. Don't be mad at Sean, honey. He's worried about you, that's all. I know, it's just... Speak of the devil. Hello, stranger, Janie said and raced off. Ellie turned to see Janie jump into Sean's arms, almost knocking over the petite brunette by his side. Janie released Sean and embraced the brunette before linking arms with her and bringing her towards Ellie. Hey, Elle, this is Astrid, Sean's wife. Astrid, this is Ellie, Janie said before she slipped away to join the others. Ellie, it's so good to finally meet you, Astrid said, her voice soft, matching her deep brown eyes. Sean's told me so much about you. He misses you. Miss me, do you? Ellie asked, hugging Sean. You don't know how good it is to see you. Okay, Elle, you can let it go now. I'll be dead if you don't. Sean coughed out. Ellie released her grip and felt the heat suffuse her cheeks. Sorry, it's just, well, it's been forever. Sean put his arm around Ellie's shoulders and turned her to face Astrid. So, what do you think? Bloody hell, Sean, she's not a new bike, you know, Ellie said, elbowing him in the ribs and rolling her eyes. She stepped forward and embraced Astrid briefly. It's great to meet you, Astrid. I can't say at last because I knew nothing about you until Sean and I spoke last month. Well, if you hadn't gone AWOL, Sean, leave her alone. From what you've said, Ellie's had a lot to deal with, so cut her some slack. Ellie laughed as she watched the man who'd always been her protector bow down to the diminutive woman in front of him. Wow, I've never seen him agree so easily. It took a while, but I've trained him now, Astrid said and winked. Okay, ladies, before you tear my rough guy rep to shreds, let's join the rest of them, shall we? I believe we have a new member, so we're in for an interesting night. Do you remember your first time, Elle? Indeed I do, Ellie thought, casting her mind back. Oh my God, Sean, there are so many of them. It's okay, honey, we've all been where you are. Don't worry, take your time. Ellie had whirled round, trying to find the owner of the voice. It had been Janie's. As her gaze had scoured the mass of multicoloured heads, one of them had stepped forward and nodded. Janie. Red hair as human, red fur as wolf. You ready? Sean asked. Ellie looked around the pack and everyone inclined their heads. She nodded too. I guess so. Now, remember what I told you? Ellie nodded again and started forward. Suddenly, a cacophony of "Go, Ellie" sounded in her head, and then silence. She tuned out from the pack, as Sean had instructed, and tuned into the sounds of the forest. Through the whispers of the plants and trees moving on the breeze and the murmurs of the smaller animals going about their business, Ellie soon picked up the rumble of the herd. Some were eating, some were sleeping, some were nursing young, but there was one sound that stood out, the sound of pain. It wasn't so perceptible that a human being could detect it. It was more a frequency that the animal emitted, a low keening, a difference in breathing. This informed Ellie one of the herd was injured and dying. That was to be her target. She crept through the undergrowth and came to the edge of the clearing where the herd of roe deer had gathered for the night. Ellie could see her quarry, separated from the group, as though they had already written it off. The deer stood, swaying, its laboured breathing sending plumes of steam into the cooling air. Ellie raised her nose and inhaled. It was bleeding. Must be a fairly old wound, she thought, wrinkling her nose as the fetid smell of infection. She narrowed her gaze and scanned the animal, but couldn't see the wound. Must be on the other side. Ellie was about to make her move when an owl hooted from a branch above her head. She looked up, her gaze meeting that of the watchful tawny owl. As she looked back at the herd, 20 pairs of frightened eyes fixed on her. The owl hooted again, and all hell broke loose. The deer took off at pace, crisscrossing each other's paths, making it difficult for Ellie to see her target. So they haven't written it off after all. Ellie loped towards the wounded deer, but it had gone, caught up in the herd's panic. She picked up her pace, and the stragglers soon came into view. The wounded deer limped behind the others, the herd's concern replaced by their inbuilt survival instinct. In the animal kingdom, it always came down to survival of the fittest. Ellie slowed her pace. The deer stopped and turned to look at her. Its huge, liquid brown eyes locked with hers, and the resignation she saw there broke her heart. She bowed her head and turned away, only to find Sean standing behind her. You can do this, Ellie. I can't. Look at him. He knows what will happen. He's seen it before. He's made his peace. His sacrifice is for the good of the herd. How do you know? Ellie growled as her anger flared. He is part of a different world with different laws. Look at him. He's waiting. Put him out of his misery. Ellie turned and looked back at the deer and swore she saw tears swimming in his eyes. He didn't move as she approached him. He just watched her. Please turn away. But he didn't. His gaze stayed locked with hers until she stood before him. The deer bowed slightly, brushing his damp nose with hers before turning his head away, exposing his neck to her. Ellie found her compassion seep away as his heartbeat pulsated in her head. Her gaze shifted, honing in on his jugular vein, the blood pumping beneath his skin, growing ever weaker. All Ellie's senses tuned into the blood, and in a flash she was on him, sinking her teeth deep into the vein. She held the deer by the neck, swallowing the blood seeping into her mouth. As the animal weakened, he sank to his knees and then rolled onto his side. Ellie's jaws remained clamped in place. She heard his heart stop beating. She felt his blood stop pumping. She released her hold as he took his last breath. Ellie staggered backwards, straight into Sean, a mix of horror and elation flooding her body. The howls of the rest of the pack echoed through the forest, and her head rang with their "well done" and "good on you" calls. She stared as the pack rushed past her and descended on the fallen deer, tearing him apart. She turned away, burying her head in Sean's fur, trying to block out the sound of the feast. You did good, Ellie. I know it's horrible, but it is part of the natural order of things. There's nothing natural about this. There is now, Elle. This is part of who you are, and you must come to terms with it. Sean left her to join the feast while he still could. You need to eat. Ellie turned as a soft thud followed the voice and saw Janie standing before her. Ellie looked down and gagged. I can't. You have to. It's your kill. You must eat the heart. Then you officially become one of the pack. Ellie looked past Janie and watched as one by one the rest of the pack approached. A slow chant started in her head. Eat, eat, eat. She looked down at the organ on the ground in front of her, and closing her eyes, she bent down and sank her teeth into it. Holding it down with her paw, Ellie tore a piece off, chewing it briefly before swallowing. The cheering was deafening, the euphoria suffusing her body, dizzying. You coming, Elle? Sean asked, touching her arm, bringing her back to the present. What? Oh, yeah, sorry, lost in the past. Easily done. Where is everyone? They've already gone. I said I'd wait for you. Like you did then, Ellie said and smiled. Loki whined, prompting Ellie. Can Loki come with us? I didn't have time to ask, but no one seemed bothered by him. Has he seen you, as you? You've seen me as everything I am, haven't you, boy? Ellie hunkered down and ruffled Loki's fur. You ready to run, Lokes? She kept her gaze locked with his, relaxing her body to allow the full moon to take over. As her vision tinged red, she felt Loki flinch in her hands. It's okay, Loki. We've done this before, remember? Loki whined a little, but then let his tongue hang from his mouth as his tail pounded the ground. We're good, said Ellie, standing up. Sean nodded and took off towards the woods. Ellie watched as he disrobed and morphed into a wolf, disappearing into the trees, his howl being greeted by the pack. Ellie undressed and packed her clothes into the pouch she secured around her calf. Ready, Loki? She asked as she dropped to all fours, the wolf rippling through her as the power of the moon took hold. Ellie stretched, her body waking as the rising sun pressed a warm kiss to her naked thigh. She opened her eyes and grinned, the surge of energy racing through her, proof that last night was the best decision she'd made in a long time. Sean was right. Running with the pack was what she'd needed to restore her balance, probably what she'd always needed. But in Breccan, she'd had other draws on her attention, and getting back to this pack hadn't been on the cards. She realised now, as her skin tingled and her blood pulsated, flooding her muscles with strength and power, that she needed the pack if she was to restore herself. Morning, Loki, she crooned, rolling over and throwing her arm over Loki's sleeping form. His head bobbed up at the disturbance before he pushed himself back against her. I'm warm enough, don't worry, but I think we should make a move. I don't particularly relish the thought of discovery on my first outing back. Ellie pushed the husky aside and unpacked her clothes, pulling them on before switching on her phone. She searched her call list before making her selection. Sean, it's me, Ellie. Thank you for making me come. No, I'll rephrase that, for encouraging me to come. You were right, as always. I feel great, restored, and I feel ready to face Vicky. So thanks again. Oh, and it was great to meet Astrid. You've done well, is all I'm going to say. Catch you soon. Ellie pushed her phone back into her pocket and surveyed her surroundings. Looks like we've a bit of a trek back to the car, boy. Race you. Ellie took off, glancing back to see Loki staring after her before registering she wasn't joking. As he jumped up and tore after her, Ellie picked up her pace, her muscles soon adapting. Loki struggled to catch her up. And that's it. So that's Ellie's. She's getting back to normal. She's finding her feet in her new home. And next week, we'll see how she gets on with meeting up with Vicky. Until then, bye-bye.